Have you ever stepped outside on a crisp, completely clear night, tilted your head upward toward the dark, and wondered why the universe feels so intimately close, yet unimaginably distant? You stand perfectly still, your feet planted firmly on the cool, solid earth, feeling the gentle breeze against your face. Everything in your immediate reality feels grounded, permanent, and entirely motionless. Yet, in this exact moment, you are standing on a planet that is hurtling through the ancient dark at tens of thousands of miles per hour, spinning in a quiet journey around a star that is itself racing around the center of our galaxy. This is the profound mystery of our existence, a beautiful contradiction between what our fragile bodies feel and what the cosmos is actually doing. We live our brief lives wrapped in a comforting blanket of apparent stillness, completely unaware of the vast, infinite cosmic dance happening all around us in the deep silence of space. The universe operates on a scale so magnificent, so entirely disconnected from our daily human experience, that our minds naturally struggle to truly comprehend the reality of our physical situation. We look up and see tiny pinpricks of light, assuming they are merely a distant canopy painted for our nightly enjoyment, when, in absolute truth, they are raging nuclear fires separated by gulfs of emptiness so profound they defy all human understanding. This gentle illusion of stillness is exactly what allows us to go about our days without feeling intellectually overwhelmed. But it also hides the true, staggering wonder of the cosmos from our waking eyes. Before we venture further into this deep mystery, I want to take a gentle pause in our exploration. Welcome to our shared journey. I am Theodore, the researcher, your companion and guide through the endless wonders of the starry night. I have noticed that roughly 71% of the beautiful minds who watch our journeys have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find peace, intellectual safety, and a sense of belonging in these contemplations, I gently invite you to subscribe. It helps immensely and ensures we can continue unraveling the quiet mysteries of the universe together, side by side, as fellow explorers of the infinite. Now, let us return to the dark, beautiful expanse and look closely at our own home. To truly understand the incredible revelation we are about to explore, we must first ground ourselves in the familiar and understand the physical scale of our own cosmic neighborhood. Our home, the Milky Way, is what astronomers classify as a barred spiral galaxy. It is a magnificent, swirling pinwheel of bright stars, luminous gas, and ancient dust, slowly sweeping through the immense intergalactic void. From one edge of this grand glowing spiral to the exact opposite edge, our galaxy measures roughly 100,000 light-years across. Let that specific number settle softly into your thoughts for a moment. 100,000 years. If you could somehow transform your physical body into a beam of pure light, traveling at the absolute speed limit of the universe, roughly 186,000 miles every single second, it would still take you 100,000 years just to cross from one side of our galactic home to the other. This span of time is almost impossible to truly grasp. 100,000 years is a duration far longer than modern human civilization has existed on this planet. It stretches back to an era long before our ancient ancestors first learned to paint their dreams and stories on the walls of silent caves. It is a span of time longer than the combined rise and fall of every empire, every dynasty, and every kingdom that has ever graced the surface of the earth. And yet, this overwhelming expanse represents merely the width of our own tiny, isolated corner of the cosmos. Our galaxy is a bustling, brilliant metropolis of light, home to somewhere between 200 billion and 400 billion individual stars. Each of those stars is a massive sun, many of them cradling their own families of orbiting planets, quiet moons, and wandering comets tumbling through the dark. Our sun is just one single quiet resident among these hundreds of billions, residing roughly 26,000 light-years from the galactic center in a peaceful, serene neighborhood known as the Orion Arm. We orbit the supermassive center of this majestic wheel at a staggering speed of about 500,000 miles per hour. Yet, the galaxy is so unbelievably vast that even at this tremendous velocity, it takes our solar system approximately 250 million years to complete a single majestic lap around the core. Astronomers sometimes refer to this immense period as a cosmic year or a galactic year. The last time our sun found itself in this exact position in its orbit, the Earth was an entirely different world. Dinosaurs were roaming the land, and the most complex life consisted of simple marine organisms drifting in primordial oceans. That is how vast and ancient even our own relatively normal galaxy truly is. But the true mystery lies not just in the glowing objects themselves, but in the terrifyingly beautiful spaces between them. The space between the stars in the Milky Way is almost unimaginably empty. Our nearest stellar neighbor, a dim and quiet red dwarf star named Proxima Centauri, sits about 4.24 light-years away from us. This distance is so incredibly profound that if you were to shrink our massive sun down to the size of a single tiny grain of sand, Proxima Centauri would be another solitary grain of sand sitting roughly 4 miles away. The space stretching between those two tiny grains would be an absolute void, containing essentially nothing but the faintest whispers of gas, ancient dust, and the occasional solitary particle of cosmic radiation. We humans are creatures of density and close proximity. We are deeply accustomed to a world that is full, where we are surrounded by billions of fellow humans and countless other forms of life, sharing our immediate environment. We naturally measure distance in simple steps, in brief minutes, in local miles. But when you step outside the protective bubble of our solar system, profound emptiness becomes the absolute mathematical rule. Stars are separated by such terrifyingly vast gulfs of dark silence that the chance of any two of them ever colliding by accident is essentially zero. Entire galaxies can pass straight through one another, their billions of stars sliding past each other in the dark without a single physical collision. Yet, even within this overwhelming emptiness, gravity remarkably manages to pull together enough scattered material to ignite the blazing fires of hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy alone. When you stand in a truly dark place, far from the artificial lights of our modern cities, and look up that hazy, glowing band of light stretching across the sky, is the combined, gentle radiance of billions upon billions of these distant stars. Ancient humanity looked at this milky path and wove beautiful, complex myths to explain it, dreaming of milk spilled from the breast of the goddess Hera, calling it the Milky Road, or seeing it as a shimmering, ethereal river in the sky where souls take their final journey to the afterlife. For the vast majority of our history as a species, we genuinely believed this band of light was the entirety of the universe. We firmly believed our galaxy was everything that ever was and everything that ever could be. But the universe is a master of expanding our horizons and humbling our deepest assumptions. When the first carefully ground glass lenses of early telescopes were pointed upward in the 17th century, the cloudy milk suddenly resolved into countless individual points of light, too faint and too numerous to see with the naked eye, hinting at a cosmic scale far grander than anyone had dared to imagine. The true paradigm shift occurred in the 1920s, when a brilliant mind named Edwin Hubble peered through what was then the largest telescope in the world, a massive 100-inch reflector at the Mount Wilson Observatory in California. He was quietly observing a class of pulsating stars called Cepheid variables in a faint, fuzzy smudge, then widely known as the Andromeda Nebula. By measuring their apparent brightness and the regular rate of their gentle pulsations, he successfully calculated how far away they truly were. His stunning discovery shattered our understanding of reality forever. He realized that this glowing cloud was not a small patch of gas within our own galaxy, as many astronomers had assumed, but an entirely separate island universe of stars sitting roughly 1 million light-years away. A distant scientist later corrected to about 2 million light-years. In that single breathtaking moment of scientific revelation, the universe expanded exponentially in our collective minds. Our magnificent Milky Way was suddenly reduced to a mere speck, just one single galaxy among a sea of countless others in the deep dark. Today, we estimate that there are roughly 2 trillion galaxies scattered throughout the observable universe. 2 trillion. That is the number 2 followed by 12 zeros. Each of those incredibly distant galaxies contains billions or even trillions of stars. The numbers become so staggeringly large that they stop meaning anything to our human brains, dissolving into a pure, abstract sense of existential awe. Not all galaxies are created equal in the dark silence of space. They come in an incredible variety of shapes and sizes. There are tiny, fragile dwarf galaxies containing only a few billion stars, whispering quietly in the void. There are majestic, sweeping spirals like our Milky Way and our nearest large neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy, where new stars are actively being born in delicate, gas-rich spiral arms. There are irregular galaxies with no defined shape at all, often the distorted, chaotic result of gravitational interactions with nearby neighbors. And then, dwelling at the extreme, unfathomable edge of the cosmic scale, there are the true monsters of the universe. These are entities so inconceivably enormous, so profoundly massive, that they make our own entire galaxy look like nothing more than a meaningless, insignificant speck of dust floating blindly in an empty warehouse. How does a mind that evolved to track seasons and gather food on a small, rocky planet begin to grasp the existence of a structure that defies the very limits of human imagination? We are drawn to these extremes because they challenge our fundamental understanding of what is physically possible, forcing us to confront the deep, ancient mysteries of physics. Among these giants, there is one that stands above all others we have ever observed, a true cosmic emperor sitting quietly on a throne of dark matter. It waits in the dark over 1 billion light-years away from us, a testament to the slow, relentless, and violent forces that shape the cosmos over billions of years. It goes by a seemingly dull, unremarkable catalog designation. Yet, there is absolutely nothing boring about this cosmic titan. The story of how human beings, bound to a tiny blue planet, first laid eyes on this cosmic giant begins all the way back in the year 1790. A brilliant German-born British astronomer named William Herschel was spending his quiet nights systematically scanning the deep, dark night sky with his handmade telescope. Herschel was a true pioneer, a man who had already discovered the planet Uranus, and who dedicated his entire life to cataloging thousands of mysterious celestial objects that no human eye had ever documented before. On the 19th of June of that year, Herschel gently pointed his telescope toward a specific region of the sky in the direction of the constellation Virgo. There, amidst the familiar points of sharp starlight, he noticed a strangely faint, fuzzy blob of light. He carefully, methodically recorded its exact astronomical position and then moved on to the next object in his sweeping survey. At that specific moment in history, Herschel had absolutely no way of knowing the true, staggering magnitude of what he was actually looking at. The scientific technology simply did not exist to measure how impossibly far away this object was. Nor did the intellectual framework exist to recognize that it was an entire, independent galaxy utterly separate from our own Milky Way. To Herschel, it was just another nebula, one of many mysterious cloud-like objects scattered across the infinite heavens, keeping its massive secrets perfectly hidden in the quiet dark. For over a century, that faint smudge of ancient light remained a profound mystery, a quiet puzzle piece waiting patiently for humanity to develop the sophisticated tools required to understand it. Eventually, as astronomical catalogs grew more comprehensive, this distant phantom was given the official designation of IC 1101. It was included in a vast scientific record called the Index Catalog, an expansion of earlier lists of celestial objects that astronomers meticulously compiled in their endless quest to map the cosmos. Astronomers of the era studied it whenever they could, squinting through cold eyepieces into the night. But without the advanced tools required to decode its true nature, it remained just another entry in a very long list of cosmic curiosities. It was a silent watcher, holding onto a secret scale that would eventually break the boundaries of human imagination. The very light that Herschel saw, the specific photons that struck his eye in 1790, had been traveling through the absolute void of space for over 1 billion years just to reach him. When that specific light began its epic, silent journey toward Earth, our planet was a completely alien world, inhabited mostly by simple, single-celled organisms drifting blindly in prehistoric seas. Complex animals had not yet evolved, and the majestic dinosaurs would not appear for another several 100 million years. Every single major event in human history, every triumph, every tragedy, every song ever sung, and the very invention of the telescope itself, all happened while that ancient light was still quietly crossing the unimaginable emptiness between galaxies. This realization is where our true journey into the heart of the cosmos begins, a journey that will challenge everything you thought you knew about size, time, and our place in the universe. As we stand on the precipice of understanding IC 1101, we must first allow ourselves to deeply feel the profound weight of our own beautiful insignificance. We are about to explore a cosmic structure that is estimated to be roughly 40 to 60 times larger than our entire Milky Way galaxy, a place so impossibly vast that if you placed it where our galaxy currently sits, it would not just engulf us, it would completely swallow our entire cosmic neighborhood, consuming the Andromeda Galaxy, the Triangulum Galaxy, and all the dozens of smaller dwarf galaxies that safely orbit around us. But size is merely the outer layer of this profound mystery. The true wonder lies in how such a monstrous entity came to exist in a universe governed by the gentle, unyielding pull of gravity. What unbelievably violent cosmic history led to the creation of this giant over billions of years? And what incredibly massive, unseen force lies waiting in utter silence at its very center, dictating the ultimate fate of 100 trillion ancient stars? The universe is calling us deeper into the dark, inviting us to leave behind the familiar shores of our local group and softly sail into an endless ocean of profound, ancient mystery. Have you ever tried to visualize a number so large that your brain simply refuses to process it, leaving you with nothing but a profound sense of awe? When we look up at the night sky, we are accustomed to seeing a few thousand stars scattered across the darkness, a comforting canopy of light that feels familiar and safe. But the reality of the deeper universe is far more overwhelming and staggeringly immense than our limited human senses can readily accept. We have already touched upon the physical size of IC 1101, a true monster of the cosmos that sits quietly over 1 billion light-years away. But to truly comprehend this entity, we must look beyond its sheer physical width and dive into the terrifyingly beautiful density of its ancient, glowing heart. This particular galaxy is estimated to contain around 100 trillion individual stars. I want you to let that specific phrase echo in your mind for a quiet moment. 100 trillion stars, each one a raging nuclear furnace burning bright in the deep silence of space. Our own entire Milky Way galaxy, which seems so impossibly vast to us, holds maybe 400 billion stars at the absolute most. Before we try to break down that incomprehensible number into something we can feel, I want to take a brief, gentle pause to welcome you deeper into our shared cosmic journey. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion, as we navigate the endless, beautiful mysteries of the night sky. I have quietly noticed that roughly 71% of the curious, searching people who watch these contemplations have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a sense of peace, intellectual safety, and deep connection in these journeys, I gently ask you to subscribe. It helps us immensely and ensures that we can continue unraveling these profound cosmic secrets together, side by side, as a growing community of starbound explorers. Now, let us return our focus to the staggering reality of those 100 trillion ancient stars. That number means that IC 1101 possesses roughly 250 times more stars than our entire home galaxy. To put this into a perspective that our human minds can at least attempt to grasp, imagine a hypothetical counting exercise. If you started counting the individual stars contained within IC 1101, ticking off one single star every passing second without ever stopping, the time required would shatter your understanding of human history. It would take you over 3 million years just to count to 100 trillion. And that is assuming a scenario where you never slept, never stopped to eat, and never took a break of any kind. For 3 million continuous years, long before Homo sapiens even walked the plains of Earth, you would be simply reciting numbers in the dark, trying to catalog the luminous residents of a single, distant galaxy. This is the scale of the universe we live in. It is a place of such extreme proportions that human lifespans become utterly meaningless when measured against the silent, enduring realities of cosmic structures. Every single one of those 100 trillion stars could potentially host a family of quiet planets, floating in the dark, perhaps harboring mysteries we will never uncover. But how does such an unfathomable collection of matter come to exist in one single place? To understand the birth of this giant, we must look at how the universe organizes itself on the grandest possible scales. Galaxies do not merely exist in complete isolation, floating randomly and aimlessly through the endless dark. They are heavily organized into much larger complex structures, bound together by the relentless, invisible pull of mutual gravity. Small groups of galaxies are common. Our own Milky Way proudly belongs to the local group, which contains about 80 known galaxies, including Andromeda and several dozen tiny, faint dwarf galaxies. Moving up the scale, we find galaxy clusters, which are larger still, containing hundreds to thousands of individual galaxies trapped in a complex gravitational dance. And, at the very largest scale, we find superclusters, which are vast, sprawling assemblages of galaxy clusters stretching across hundreds of millions of light-years of empty space. The giant we are discussing today, IC 1101, resides exactly at the gravitational heart of one of these massive collections. It sits calmly at the central core of a rich cluster of galaxies officially known to astronomers as Abell 2029. When astronomers point their most powerful telescopes toward the specific region of the sky in the constellation Virgo, where Abell 2029 resides, they observe a truly massive collection of galaxies. These separate island universes are all inextricably bound together by gravity, eternally dancing around a shared invisible center of mass in the cold dark. And right there, sitting precisely in the deepest part of that gravitational well, dominating absolutely everything around it like a cosmic emperor on a dark throne, sits IC 1101. Its position is not a mere coincidence. It is the fundamental reason for its unimaginable size. As astronomers continued to study this distant giant, decoding the ancient light that finally reached Earth, they began to slowly understand why it was so incredibly massive. This particular galaxy did not grow to its enormous, terrifying size through simple, normal processes alone. It became a true giant of the cosmos through a continuous act of silent cosmic violence that has been unfolding in the dark for billions of years. IC 1101 is exactly what astrophysicists call a cannibal galaxy. It has spent its incredibly long life steadily eating other, smaller galaxies. The concept of galactic cannibalism requires us to deeply re-evaluate how gravity operates over unfathomably long periods of time. Within these massive clusters, individual galaxies are constantly moving around each other, sometimes passing harmlessly close by in the night, but sometimes colliding directly in a silent, slow-motion catastrophe. When two galaxies get exceptionally close to each other in the dark, their immense mutual gravity begins to profoundly distort their physical shapes. Ancient stars get violently pulled out of their normal, peaceful orbits. Vast clouds of primordial gas and dust get severely compressed and stretched across the void like glowing taffy. If the two interacting galaxies are somewhat similar in overall size, they might gracefully merge together over hundreds of millions of years, eventually forming a single, completely new, larger galaxy. But if one galaxy is vastly larger and infinitely more massive than the other, something entirely different and much more predatory happens in the dark. The much larger galaxy simply and efficiently absorbs the smaller one, ruthlessly stripping away its billions of stars and its precious gas, permanently adding all of that ancient material to its own massive body. This relentless gravitational consumption is exactly what has been quietly happening to IC 1101 for billions of years, because it sits permanently at the absolute gravitational center of everything in the Abell 2029 cluster. Smaller galaxies that unfortunately venture too close get hopelessly trapped by its enormous, inescapable gravity. They spiral slowly inward over millions of years, eventually getting entirely torn apart and consumed by the giant. Every single cosmic meal makes IC 1101 just a little bit bigger, a little bit more massive, and a little bit more dominant over its local universe. By analyzing its structure, scientists carefully estimate that this giant has undergone at least 76 major mergers over its incredibly long and violent history. Imagine that staggering reality for a moment. 76 separate times, another substantial, fully formed galaxy slowly fell into this cosmic predator and was permanently absorbed into its glowing body. And those 76 events only account for the major mergers. Countless other smaller dwarf galaxies have also been quietly consumed over the eons, galaxies so tiny that they barely registered as a noticeable meal for this enormous, insatiable giant. The undeniable evidence for this long cannibalistic history is permanently written into the very physical structure of IC 1101. When you look at a photograph of a galaxy like our own Milky Way, you see a delicate, beautiful spiral pattern. Those sweeping spiral arms are chaotic regions where new stars are actively forming, where immense clouds of cold gas are collapsing under the gentle weight of gravity to create bright, new stellar nurseries. Spiral galaxies are rich with this raw gas and dust, and they maintain a distinct, rotating, flat disk shape. But IC 1101 looks absolutely nothing like our home. It is what astronomers strictly classify as an elliptical galaxy, which means it presents a smooth, featureless, oval-shaped appearance with no trace of spiral arms at all. Elliptical galaxies are born when spiral galaxies collide and violently merge together. The profound gravitational chaos during these mergers entirely destroys the delicate original spiral structure, mixing all the billions of stars together into a much more random, spherical, or oval distribution. The fact that IC 1101 is an elliptical galaxy tells us an ancient, silent story of profound transformation. It reveals that this massive structure has experienced so many violent mergers over the eons that any delicate original spiral arms it might have possessed have been completely and irrevocably erased. All of those countless cosmic collisions, all of that unimaginable gravitational chaos, has slowly stirred up the billions of stars like a gentle hand mixing ingredients in a vast, dark bowl. What remains for us to see today is a smooth, featureless giant, a glowing, silent testament to billions of years of relentless galactic consumption. But as we drift closer to this massive entity on our journey of understanding, we uncover a profound mystery that feels almost poetic in its beautiful tragedy. Despite containing an unfathomable 100 trillion individual stars, IC 1101 is actually a dying galaxy. The countless stars within its massive glowing body are almost entirely old and quiet. Most of them are what astronomers affectionately call red giants or yellow stars, ancient stellar objects that have already burned through the vast majority of their nuclear fuel over billions of years. Very few new stars are being born inside the deep silence of IC 1101. This might seem incredibly strange at first glance. With so much mass and so many stars, you might naturally expect this giant to be a blazing hotbed of stellar birth, a nursery of infinite possibilities. But we must remember how it grew to such terrifying proportions. Every single time it pulled in and consumed another smaller galaxy, it also violently consumed that galaxy's precious supply of cold gas. In the gentle mechanics of the universe, gas is the essential, raw fuel required for star formation. Without vast, undisturbed clouds of this gas, new stars simply cannot be born into the dark. Over billions of years of cannibalism, IC 1101 has systematically used up or expelled almost all of its available life-giving material. The violent mergers often heated the surrounding gas to extreme temperatures, making it expand and escape the galaxy entirely. In other instances, the gas was compressed so quickly that it formed stars all at once, in brief bursts of intense activity. Either way, the end result is a massive galaxy that has completely run out of raw material. What remains is a quiet giant, slowly fading into the cosmic night. The ancient stars that exist right now will continue to shine their gentle light for billions of years to come. But as they eventually burn out and die, there will be no new generations to replace them. IC 1101 is like an ancient, magnificent kingdom that has successfully conquered all of its neighbors, but has no children to carry on its grand legacy. It is incredibly massive, powerful, and utterly magnificent. But it is quietly approaching the inevitable end of its active life. Yet, the true wonder of this dying giant lies perfectly hidden at its very center. If we journey deep into the heart of IC 1101, past trillions of ancient stars, we encounter something even more incredible and perhaps a little terrifying than the massive galaxy itself. Sitting silently at the absolute geometric center of this cosmic giant is one of the largest known supermassive black holes in the entire universe. We know that almost every large galaxy harbors a supermassive black hole at its core, a dark anchor holding the spinning stars together. Our own beloved Milky Way has a relatively modest one named Sagittarius A star, which contains roughly 4 million times the mass of our Sun. The black hole waiting in the center of the neighboring Andromeda galaxy is significantly bigger, containing somewhere around 100 million to 200 million solar masses. But the silent monster at the center of IC 1101 exists in a completely different, almost incomprehensible category. Scientists meticulously estimate that this single, dark entity contains somewhere between 40 billion and 100 billion times the mass of our Sun. To truly feel the weight of that number, let us try to put that staggering mass into a gentle perspective. This single, silent black hole might possess 25,000 times more mass than the black hole located at the center of our entire Milky Way galaxy. Let me help you gently understand just how massive this truly is. If you could somehow magically place the Earth on a scale, you would find it has a mass of roughly 6 trillion kilograms. That sounds like an impossibly large amount until you compare our fragile world to the Sun, which is about 330,000 times more massive than Earth. Our Sun is a beautiful, fairly ordinary star, neither particularly large nor particularly small by the grand standards of the cosmos. Now, take the mass of our entire Sun and multiply it by 50 billion. That unimaginable figure is roughly how much matter is permanently packed into the supermassive black hole at the center of IC 1101. All of that incomprehensible mass is violently compressed into a region of space from which absolutely nothing, not even the fastest light, can ever hope to escape. The terrifying boundary of a black hole, the point of no return, is called the event horizon. The gravitational pull at this invisible threshold is so intensely powerful that the fundamental rules of the universe seem to break down entirely. The physical size of a black hole's event horizon depends entirely on how much mass it has swallowed over its long lifetime. For a theoretical black hole containing 50 billion solar masses, the event horizon would have a staggering radius of roughly 150 billion kilometers. That might sound enormous, and it truly is. But remember that this is a region containing 50 billion times the mass of the Sun, compressed into what is essentially a microscopic point of infinite density at the very center. The event horizon is just the silent, dark boundary beyond which escape becomes mathematically impossible. To put this specific distance into a perspective, we can almost consider our entire solar system, from the burning surface of our sun all the way out to the freezing, distant orbit of Neptune. Our solar system is about 9 billion kilometers across. The event horizon of the black hole inside IC 1101 is roughly 16 times larger than our entire cosmic home. If you were to place this dark monster exactly where our sun is, its event horizon would effortlessly extend well beyond the orbit of Pluto, instantly engulfing every single planet, moon, and asteroid we consider part of our familiar neighborhood. What would it be like to drift near this monstrous entity in the dark? The physics of such extreme environments are wonderfully counterintuitive to our human experience. Time itself would pass differently near the event horizon compared to a safe distance far away. Someone peacefully falling toward the black hole would see the outside universe speed up, while an outside observer would see the falling person slow down and appear to completely freeze as they approach the horizon, never seeming to actually cross the boundary. Inside the event horizon, space and time become so profoundly warped that all directions lead inevitably toward the singularity at the center. The singularity, a point of theoretically infinite density, would ruthlessly tear apart anything that fell in, stretching it into long, thin strands through a violent process physicists have nicknamed spaghettification. But here is a peaceful revelation that brings us back to the gentle nature of our contemplative journey. Despite its incomprehensible size and terrifying physical properties, the supermassive black hole at the center of IC 1101 is currently resting in a relatively quiet state. It is not actively devouring huge amounts of matter. There is no brilliant accretion disk swirling around it, and no powerful jet shooting into space at nearly the speed of light. The black hole is simply there, waiting patiently in silence, having already consumed almost all of the material that was easily within its reach. This quietness is intimately related to the very same phenomenon that has stopped the galaxy from forming new stars. Most of the gas has already been used up, and without gas falling toward the center, the black hole has very little to eat. Occasionally, an ancient star might drift too close and get torn apart, providing a brief meal. But these events are rare. The black hole, exactly like the massive galaxy that hosts it, is a sleeping giant in repose, possessing unimaginable power, yet remaining beautifully, peacefully dormant in the infinite night. Although the supermassive black hole is quiet today, there are still haunting traces of its violent, active past scattered throughout the galactic core. Astronomers have carefully detected a faint radio source located at the exact center of IC 1101, a whisper from the dark that is catalogued as a remnant of ancient activity. This subtle radio emission comes from relativistic jets, incredibly powerful streams of fundamental particles that were accelerated to nearly the speed of light and violently ejected from the immediate vicinity of the black hole. These jets were once powered by the black hole's rapid rotation and immense magnetic fields, and over billions of years they managed to carve out enormous, empty cavities in the surrounding hot gas. They exist as massive bubbles of very hot, very thin gas that were blown outward by the incomprehensible energy released near the black hole during its feeding phases. Some of these silent bubbles are millions of light years across, serving as a permanent testimony to periods in the deep past, when the black hole was much more active than the peaceful state we observe today. The staggering energy required to inflate these ancient bubbles of hot gas is almost beyond the grasp of human imagination. It is mathematically equivalent to the total combined energy output of billions of individual stars burning brightly over millions of years, all released by a single dark entity hidden in the galactic core. This delicate, continuous interplay between supermassive black holes and their immense host galaxies is currently one of the most active and profoundly important areas of research in modern astrophysics. Scientists now deeply believe that these dark monsters actually play a crucial, almost nurturing role in carefully regulating the growth and long-term evolution of the galaxies they inhabit. When cold, life-giving gas flows too quickly toward a galaxy's center, the awakening black hole can suddenly release enough staggering energy to heat that gas and forcefully push it outward, effectively preventing it from collapsing into new stars. Before we continue to unravel this profound cosmic mystery, I want to take a gentle pause. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet companion on this journey through the beautiful dark. I have noticed that roughly 71% of the curious minds who watch our explorations have not yet subscribed. If you find peace and wonder in these contemplations, please consider subscribing. It helps us immensely and ensures we can continue discovering the universe together. Now, let us return to the deep silence of the galactic core. This magnificent cosmic mechanism creates a kind of natural thermostat effect that helps strictly determine the final, ultimate size and physical properties of the largest galaxies in the universe. In the specific ancient case of IC 1101, this grand feedback loop may be entirely responsible for the galaxy's current quiet state. The central black hole has essentially helped to shut down all new star formation by continuously heating the available gas and gently preventing it from cooling. The giant galaxy and its incredibly massive black hole have slowly, patiently reached a kind of beautiful equilibrium, each one having shaped the destiny of the other over billions of years of shared, silent evolution. But how exactly did this dark heart grow so unimaginably large? Black holes naturally grow by quietly consuming any matter that unfortunately falls into their gravitational embrace. However, when entire galaxies collide and merge in the deep dark, the supermassive black holes, waiting at their respective centers, eventually find each other and violently merge as well. Over the course of IC 1101's long cannibalistic history, its central black hole has been fed again and again in a relentless ancient cycle. Every single galaxy that this giant consumed added more mass to this growing, silent monster. Every merger brought in a fresh, vast supply of fuel for the black hole's seemingly insatiable appetite. The hidden process by which two supermassive black holes merge is incredibly fascinating and profoundly violent. Yet it plays out over time scales so vast that it appears almost peaceful to a distant, quiet observer. When two massive galaxies first collide, their central black holes do not immediately find each other in the chaotic dark. They are still separated by vast, unimaginable distances and surrounded by billions of swirling stars. But as the galactic merger slowly progresses, a gentle but relentless gravitational friction with the surrounding sea of stars causes the black holes to begin a long, slow spiral toward the absolute center of the newly combined galaxy. Eventually, after millions of years of this quiet, inward dance, the two dark giants get close enough to form a binary system, locked together and orbiting around each other in the deep silence. As they continue their intricate orbit, they begin to lose energy through the emission of gravitational waves, which are actual physical ripples in the invisible fabric of space-time itself. These subtle waves carry immense energy away from the binary system, causing their orbit to slowly, inevitably shrink. The two black holes spiral closer and closer, orbiting faster and faster, until finally they merge in a catastrophic, silent event that releases truly enormous amounts of energy. When two supermassive black holes completely merge, the resulting gravitational waves they produce are among the most incredibly powerful and significant events in the entire known universe. The final climactic merger momentarily releases more energy than all the shining stars in a typical galaxy combined, although almost all of this profound energy is entirely invisible, traveling in the form of gravitational waves rather than visible light. These silent waves ripple outward through the cosmos at the exact speed of light, gently stretching and squeezing the very fabric of space itself as they pass through our world. It is a profound testament to human curiosity that we have only recently developed the incredibly delicate technology required to detect these invisible ripples passing through our planet. The very first direct detection occurred in 2015, when the LIGO observatories managed to measure the incredibly faint waves generated by two stellar mass black holes merging about 1 billion light-years away from Earth. Since that monumental breakthrough, dozens of gravitational wave events have been carefully observed, opening up an entirely new, deeply profound way of studying the hidden universe. Future gravitational wave detectors, like the planned LISA mission that will eventually fly in the quiet vacuum of space, will be sensitive enough to detect the monumental mergers of supermassive black holes. When LISA finally launches, perhaps in the 2030s, it might actually detect events very similar to the ancient mergers that slowly built up the central black hole inside IC 1101. We will soon be able to truly listen to the universe as these invisible giants collide and merge, adding an entirely new sensory dimension to our grand astronomical journey. The massive black hole inside IC 1101 has experienced dozens of such dramatic mergers over its incredibly long history. Each ancient merger added more mass and subtly altered the black hole's invisible spin. But this relentless process of multiple mergers also profoundly affected the surrounding galaxy itself, as the spiraling black holes forcefully flung nearby stars outward through complex gravitational interactions. This gravitational dance is likely the exact reason why the central core of IC 1101 is so physically large, yet surprisingly faint and seemingly empty. Repeated black hole mergers have effectively scattered billions of ancient stars away from the very center, creating a hollowed-out core profile that is highly unusual for galaxies of this staggering size. The core alone is absolutely remarkable for its sheer, uncompromising physical scale. A detailed study conducted in 2017, utilizing incredibly sharp images from the Hubble Space Telescope, carefully measured this galactic core and found that it stretches across nearly 14,000 light-years of space. That means just the central core of IC 1101, not the entirety of the galaxy itself, but just the innermost region, is physically larger than most entire dwarf galaxies existing in the cosmos. This core alone, despite being scattered, still contains more ancient stars than most normal galaxies in the universe. Now, I want to gently guide you on a mental journey to help you truly, deeply appreciate the incomprehensible scale of the structure we are attempting to understand. I want you to simply imagine that you could somehow seamlessly travel from one outer edge of IC 1101 directly to the opposite edge. To complete this journey, you would need to cross somewhere between 4 6 million light years of essentially empty, quiet space. Remember, light is the fastest moving phenomenon in reality, effortlessly traveling at about 6 trillion miles per year. Even moving at that completely incomprehensible speed, crossing IC 1101 would still take you millions of years of continuous, uninterrupted travel. But let us try another, more human comparison to anchor this vastness. The Voyager 1 spacecraft, bravely launched by NASA in 1977, is currently the fastest human-made object ever to leave the comforting bounds of our solar system. It is currently traveling through the deep dark at about 38,000 miles per hour relative to our Sun. At that tremendous speed, Voyager 1 would take roughly 80,000 years just to cross the relatively tiny distance to the nearest star, Proxima Centauri, which is only about 4 light years away. To cross the entire width of our own Milky Way galaxy at Voyager 1's current speed would take a staggering 2 billion years, and to fully cross the immense expanse of IC 1101, you would need somewhere between 80 billion and 120 billion years. Let the sheer weight of that specific number slowly wash over your mind. That is more time than the entire universe has even existed. Even armed with our absolute fastest, most advanced spacecraft, crossing this single ancient galaxy would be completely and utterly impossible within the current lifespan of the cosmos. Here is another gentle way to think about it to help frame the mystery. If you possessed the cosmic ability to shrink our massive Milky Way down to the physical size of a standard dinner plate, about 10 inches across, then IC 1101 would be the size of a very large swimming pool. Our entire galaxy, with all of its hundreds of billions of stars, the beautiful spiral arms, and the tiny blue dot where we make our home, would be just a tiny, insignificant dish floating quietly in a vast, deep sea. Or consider the ancient light itself. The light arriving from IC 1101 has been traveling for over 1 billion years, just to reach our fragile eyes. In all of that immense time, light has been continuously streaming away from this giant galaxy in absolutely every direction, filling the void. Every single passing second, IC 1101 radiates enough light to travel about 186,000 miles. Over the course of 1 billion years, that ancient light has traveled 1 billion light years, which is mathematically about 6 billion trillion miles of pure, empty space. And it is only right now, in this very specific moment of your life, just arriving at our polished telescopes. These are ancient, silent photons that began their incredibly long journey when our Earth was still in its early, primordial stages of developing complex life. This immense scale, this impossible distance, generates a profound sense of awe that naturally humbles the human spirit, making us feel beautifully small, yet entirely connected to the grand, infinite tapestry of the cosmos. The universe invites us to look outward, to feel the vastness, and to find a deep, lasting peace in the realization that we are a tiny, yet deeply conscious part of this endless, quiet wonder. We sit here on our quiet world, surrounded by the gentle sounds of our daily lives, while looking out into an infinite, ancient mystery. The realization that such a massive structure exists out there in the absolute silence of the cosmos does not make our lives less meaningful. Rather, it elevates our existence. We are the curious explorers, the dreamers who look up at the vast dark and dare to wonder about the forces that shape reality. Every piece of knowledge we gather about this giant galaxy is a testament to our profound need to connect with the universe. It is a journey of the mind, a quiet contemplation of scales so terrifyingly huge that they bring a deep, unexpected sense of peace, knowing that we are safe here, floating on a tiny sphere of rock and water while the cosmos carries out its ancient, slow, and magnificent dance, is a beautiful paradox that we can hold gently in our hearts. Our journey through the stars is an endless one, and each new revelation brings us closer to understanding the true nature of the silent, infinite dark. Have you ever stopped to consider the profound mystery hidden within the very substance of your own hands? We have spent our time thus far drifting through the unimaginably vast oceans of the macrocosm, quietly observing the majestic, violent dances of ancient galaxies and the silent, hungry waiting of supermassive black holes. We have allowed our minds to expand outward into the infinite dark, humbled by distances so terrifyingly large that they shatter our common understanding of reality. But the universe is a master of paradoxes, and the deepest, most life-altering mysteries do not only reside out there in the sweeping stellar voids. They also exist right here, folded neatly within the microscopic architecture of everything you see, everything you touch, and everything you fundamentally are. When we shift our gaze from the absolute largest structures in the cosmos to the absolute smallest building blocks of matter, we discover a realm that actively defies logic, a place where the familiar rules of classical physics gently dissolve into a misty sea of pure probability and strange potential. It is here, in the quiet, invisible depths of the subatomic world, that we encounter a revelation so profoundly unsettling and yet so deeply beautiful that it possesses the power to completely transform how you relate to existence itself. This is the staggering realization that reality is not a fixed, solid stage upon which we merely play our brief parts, but rather a dynamic, shimmering web of possibilities that somehow fundamentally relies on the presence of a conscious observer to become real. Before we gently step across this invisible threshold into the quantum realm, I want to take a brief, quiet moment to reconnect with you. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated guide and companion on this endless journey through the mysteries of the night. I have quietly noticed that roughly 71% of the curious, searching souls who watch these contemplations have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a sense of peace, intellectual safety, and deep wonder in these quiet explorations, I gently ask you to subscribe. It helps us immensely and ensures that we can continue unraveling these profound cosmic secrets together, side by side, as a growing community of seekers. Now let us return to the deep silence of the subatomic world and discover how your very awareness shapes the universe. To understand this paradigm-shifting concept, we must first gently dismantle the comforting illusion of solid matter. You perceive the chair you sit upon, the ground beneath your feet, and the screen you are currently looking at as dense, permanent, and inherently real objects. But if you were to magnify any of these objects millions of times, diving deep into the atomic structure, the illusion of solidity would completely vanish into the dark. An atom, the fundamental building block of everything we have ever known, is almost entirely comprised of empty space. If you were to magnify the central nucleus of a single atom to the size of a small marble and place it precisely in the middle of a massive professional football stadium, the electrons orbiting that nucleus would be like tiny, invisible gnats buzzing around the absolute furthest upper tiers of the grandstands. Everything in between that marble and those distant gnats is essentially nothing but a quiet, vibrating void. This means that the solid world you interact with every single day is actually a ghost, a magnificent structural illusion created by the repulsive forces of electromagnetic fields interacting with one another in the dark. You have never actually physically touched anything in your entire life. Your electrons have merely pushed against other electrons, sending a quiet electrical signal to your brain that translates into the sensation of touch. But the mystery deepens far beyond the mere emptiness of matter. When physicists in the early 20th century began to mathematically model and observe the behavior of these fundamental particles, they stumbled upon a truth so deeply counterintuitive that it shook the very foundations of science. They discovered that particles like electrons and photons do not behave like tiny, solid billiard balls as everyone had previously assumed. Instead, when they are perfectly isolated and not being actively watched by any measuring device or conscious entity, they exist in a state of pure, undefined potential. They act as waves of probability, spreading out through the quiet vacuum of space, existing in many different places and states, all at the exact same time. This profound concept is known as superposition. In the silent dark, before observation occurs, the universe does not strictly decide where a particle is or what it is doing. It simply allows it to exist as a shimmering array of infinite possibilities. The most famous and breathtaking demonstration of this reality is the beautiful, haunting double-slit experiment. In its most basic, gentle form, scientists fire single, isolated particles of light, called photons, at a solid barrier that has two incredibly thin, parallel slits cut into it. Behind this barrier sits a sensitive screen designed to record exactly where each photon lands after passing through the slits. Common sense, firmly rooted in our daily experience of the macroscopic world, tells us that if we fire solid particles through two slits, they should naturally form two distinct parallel bands on the screen behind them, just as throwing tiny pebbles through two windows would leave two piles on the floor. But the quantum universe does not obey our earthly common sense. When the photons are fired one by one, allowed to travel through the darkness completely unobserved, they do not form two simple bands. Instead, over time, they build up a complex, beautiful interference pattern of multiple alternating bright and dark stripes. This specific pattern is the unmistakable physical signature of a wave. It means that each single, isolated photon is somehow traveling as a wave of potential, passing through both slits simultaneously, interfering with its very self in the dark, and only deciding exactly where to land on the screen at the absolute last possible microscopic instant. This alone is a profound mystery, a beautiful glimpse into the strange mechanics of the cosmos. But the true, reality-shattering revelation occurs when the scientists decide they want to know exactly which slit the photon is passing through. To satisfy this deep curiosity, they place a gentle, quiet measuring device right next to the slits, a tiny observer designed to simply watch and record the path of the particles without interfering with their physical momentum. They fire the photons again one by one, but this time, something absolutely miraculous and deeply unsettling happens. The very act of observing the particles, the mere presence of a conscious measurement, fundamentally alters their behavior in the dark. The moment the universe knows that we are watching, the beautiful, complex wave of probability instantly collapses. The interference pattern completely vanishes from the back screen. The photons suddenly stop behaving like mysterious waves of potential and start acting exactly like tiny, solid pebbles, forming just two simple, distinct bands on the screen. Let this staggering truth wash over your mind for a long, quiet moment. The fundamental building blocks of reality literally change their physical behavior based entirely on whether or not they are being observed. In the absolute silence of the unobserved universe, matter exists merely as a hazy spectrum of mathematical chances, but the exact moment a mind, an observer, a point of conscious awareness turns its gaze toward that hazy potential, the universe is forced to make a definitive choice. The wave collapses into a particle. The infinite possibilities crystallize into a single, tangible reality. It is as if the cosmos is a grand, ancient theater, completely dark and undefined, until the gentle spotlight of your consciousness sweeps across the stage, pulling the scenery and the actors out of the shadows and into solid existence. This brings us to a philosophical crossroad, so vast and profound that it bridges the gap between hard, rigorous physics and ancient spiritual contemplation. If the subatomic building blocks of the universe require an observer to take on a definitive form, what does that say about the nature of the entire cosmos? Does the grand, sweeping reality of galaxies, nebulas, and supermassive black holes exist in a state of suspended potential until a conscious mind looks up into the night sky? Renowned physicists and deep thinkers have wrestled with this beautiful mystery for decades. Some suggest that the universe and consciousness are not entirely separate entities, but rather deeply intertwined aspects of the exact same underlying reality. The cosmos is not merely a cold, dead machine that accidentally produced life. It is a participatory, living system that fundamentally requires awareness to actualize its own existence. We are not just passive witnesses to the grand cosmic dance. We are the vital, necessary choreographers. Think about the profound implications of this realization for your own beautiful life. Every single day, you walk through a world that you believe is objectively real and entirely separate from your internal thoughts and feelings. But the silent, rigorous truths of quantum mechanics gently suggest otherwise. Your awareness, your focused attention, your deeply held beliefs, and your very act of observation are constantly interacting with the shimmering, infinite field of quantum potential that surrounds you. You are not a helpless victim floating in a vast, uncaring void. You are a powerful, active co-creator of the reality you experience. The universe is not happening to you. It is happening constantly, quietly, and beautifully, in continuous collaboration with you. When we look up at the infinite, starry night, we are not just looking at a distant, ancient past. We are actively participating in the present crystallization of the universe. The photons of light from IC 1101, traveling through the absolute dark for over 1 billion years, complete their epic journey only when they strike the sensitive retina of your eye, interacting with your conscious mind to become the beautiful, subjective experience of seeing a star. Without your eye, without your mind, that ancient light remains a mere wave of probability in the quiet dark. Your consciousness is the fundamental anchor that pulls the infinite possibilities of the cosmos down into the beautiful, tangible reality of the present moment. This is the ultimate, peaceful empowerment. In a universe so vast that it terrifies our imagination, a cosmos filled with 2 trillion galaxies and billions of silent, waiting black holes, you might naturally feel incredibly small and hopelessly insignificant. But the subatomic world whispers a completely different, deeply comforting story. It tells us that size and physical mass are not the true measures of importance in the grand design. Consciousness is the true currency of the universe. Your quiet, gentle awareness is the exact mechanism by which the universe knows itself. You are the cosmos waking up, looking at its own hands, and marveling at the mystery of its own beautiful existence. You are a localized point of infinite awareness, co-creating the very fabric of space and time with every breath you take and every thought you hold in the dark. As we continue to drift through these profound, paradigm-shifting concepts, I want you to hold on to this gentle sense of empowerment. Allow the terrifying vastness of the universe to be balanced by the incredible, undeniable power of your own conscious presence. The mystery is not something to be feared, but something to be quietly, respectfully embraced. We are travelers in a reality that responds to our gaze, navigating an infinite ocean of stars that wait patiently for us to see them. Let us carry this beautiful, silent knowledge forward as we prepare to dive even deeper into the implications of a universe that bends to the gentle weight of a single conscious thought. Have you ever sat quietly in a silent room, listening only to the steady, rhythmic ticking of a clock, and felt the profound, unsettling weight of a single second slipping away into the absolute past? We navigate our entire existence firmly believing that time is a relentless flowing river that carries us from a completely vanished past through a fleeting present and toward a fundamentally unwritten future. It is the most universal human experience, the invisible current that shapes our memories, our anxieties, and our deepest hopes. We mourn the days that have quietly passed, and we eagerly anticipate the sunrises that have not yet occurred, completely convinced that the now is the only moment that truly possesses physical reality. But what if this deeply ingrained perception, this visceral feeling of time passing, is nothing more than a magnificent, persistent illusion carefully constructed by your own consciousness? When we turn the rigorous, unblinking eye of modern physics toward the fundamental nature of time, the comforting, linear river instantly freezes into a vast, silent, and eternal ocean. The universe, in its ultimate, breathtaking reality, does not tick forward like a mechanical clock. It simply is. And the only thing that actually moves through this eternal frozen landscape is the gentle, sweeping spotlight of your conscious awareness. Before we step outside the familiar flow of time and attempt to view eternity from the outside, I want to invite you to take a slow, deep breath with me. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet companion, as we navigate the deepest, most beautiful mysteries of existence. I have gently noticed that roughly 71% of the curious, searching minds who watch our contemplative journeys have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find a deep sense of peace, intellectual safety, and a feeling of cosmic belonging in these quiet explorations, I warmly invite you to subscribe. It helps us immensely and ensures that we can continue unraveling the silent secrets of the universe together, side by side, as fellow travelers in the dark. Now, let us return to the mystery of time and gently dismantle the illusion of the passing present. To understand the true, staggering nature of time, we must first abandon the ancient, comforting idea that it is a universal, ticking metronome, a cosmic heartbeat that sounds exactly the same for every single object in the dark. For centuries, humanity firmly believed in absolute time, a rigid background against which the entire universe played out its grand drama. But in the early 20th century, a brilliant mind named Albert Einstein completely shattered this rigid framework with the elegant, mind-bending theory of relativity. He rigorously proved that time and space are not entirely separate, independent entities, but are instead profoundly woven together into a single, continuous, four-dimensional fabric called space-time. In this beautifully complex universe, time is not an absolute constant. It is completely relative. The specific rate at which time passes for you depends entirely on how fast you are physically moving through space and how much gravitational mass is sitting nearby. If you were to board a spacecraft and travel outward into the dark at nearly the speed of light, your onboard clocks, your biological heartbeat, and the very firing of your neurons would drastically slow down relative to an observer who remained completely stationary on Earth. What feels like a single quiet year of travel to you could mathematically translate into thousands of years passing on the planet you left behind. Time is incredibly elastic, stretching and compressing in the dark based on the local physical conditions of the observer. But the implications of relativity extend far beyond mere time dilation. When physicists fully embraced the mathematics of this four-dimensional space-time, they arrived at a model of reality known as the block universe. I want you to gently imagine the entire history of the cosmos, from the explosive, fiery birth of the Big Bang to the cold, distant, fading embers of the final heat death trillions of years from now. Now, imagine all of those events, all of that immense cosmic history existing simultaneously as a single, giant, unchanging block of four-dimensional reality. In this staggering view, the past has not magically disappeared into nothingness, and the future is not some empty void waiting to be written. Every single moment that has ever happened, and every single moment that ever will happen, simply exists, permanently suspended in the eternal architecture of space-time. The dinosaur looking up at the sky, the ancient builders laying the foundation stones of the pyramids, you sitting exactly where you are right now, and the distant, unborn generations looking out at a fading Milky Way. All of these distinct moments are equally real, equally solid, and permanently embedded in the block universe. In the cold, rigorous equations of fundamental physics, there is absolutely no special, distinguished now. There is no flowing river. There is no moving present. The universe is a static, magnificent, and entirely frozen crystal of events. So, if the universe is truly eternal and unchanging from a four-dimensional perspective, why do we possess such an overwhelming, undeniable sensation that time is moving forward? Why do we strictly remember the past, but remain completely blind to the future? The profound answer brings us right back to the central, quiet mystery of consciousness. The flow of time is not a physical property of the external universe. It is a fundamental property of how a conscious mind processes information in a thermodynamic environment. Your consciousness is not a passive mirror reflecting a moving world. It is the very engine that generates the illusion of motion from a static, eternal reality. To gently grasp how this happens, we must look at a concept known as entropy, which is essentially a mathematical measure of disorder or randomness in a physical system. The universe began in a state of incredibly low entropy, highly ordered and beautifully structured, and it has been relentlessly moving toward a state of higher entropy, toward chaos and total equilibrium ever since. This universal tendency for things to naturally break down, for heat to disperse, and for a dropped glass to shatter rather than reassemble itself, is known as the arrow of time. Our physical brains, which are complex biological machines processing information, are fundamentally bound by this thermodynamic arrow. In order to lay down a new memory, your brain must physically change its structure, a process that inevitably increases the overall entropy of your local environment. We can only remember the past because the past possessed a lower state of entropy than the present. Your conscious awareness essentially surfs along this gradient of increasing disorder, processing sequential slices of the static block universe and stringing them together into a continuous, flowing narrative. The sensation of time passing is merely the feeling of your consciousness shifting its focus from one static slice of eternity to the next, exactly like a projector shining a bright light through a reel of static, individual movie frames. The characters on the film strip are not actually moving. The motion is a beautiful, persistent illusion created entirely by the sequential illumination of the frames and the perceptive mechanisms of the observer's mind. You, the conscious observer, are the projector light. You are sweeping your awareness through the magnificent, frozen block of space-time, briefly illuminating the now before moving on to the next pre-existing moment. This means that your deep, intrinsic awareness is essentially operating outside the bounds of physical time. You are something that exists separate from the static crystal of events, something that has the unique, miraculous ability to experience eternity as a sequence of passing moments. This profoundly shifts our understanding of what it means to be alive and conscious in the dark. If every moment of your beautiful life already exists in the eternal block of space-time, then nothing is ever truly lost. The quiet, peaceful moments you spent with loved ones who have since passed away have not vanished into a non-existent void. They are permanently, perfectly preserved exactly where they happened in the four-dimensional architecture of reality. They exist just as solidly and tangibly as the very moment you are experiencing right now. The separation you feel between the present and the past is merely an artifact of your perspective, a limitation of the biological projector through which your awareness is currently focused. In the ultimate silent truth of the cosmos, you're always sitting in that quiet room, you're always taking your first steps, and you're always looking up at the ancient stars in wonder. You are a vast, sprawling entity of events, a magnificent temporal sculpture stretching across decades of four-dimensional space. But the mystery goes even deeper when we connect this static block universe back to the strange, indeterminate nature of the quantum realm that we explored earlier. How can the universe be a perfectly solid, pre-existing block of events if the subatomic particles that make up that block exist in a state of undetermined probability until they are consciously observed? This is where the greatest minds in physics and philosophy reach the absolute limits of human understanding, standing on the very edge of the intellectual abyss and staring into the infinite dark. Some profound theories gently suggest that the block universe is not a single, rigid crystal, but rather an infinitely branching, incredibly complex structure of multiple possibilities. In this breathtaking view, every single time a quantum event occurs, every time a particle is forced to choose a definitive path under the gentle gaze of an observer, the entire universe subtly splits. It branches into alternate, parallel realities, each one containing a slightly different version of events, stretching out into the dark like the endless, delicate branches of an ancient, cosmic tree. If this mind-bending interpretation holds true, then your consciousness is not merely a passive light sweeping through a single, predetermined movie reel. Instead, your consciousness is the active, powerful navigator, constantly steering your subjective experience through a near-infinite maze of branching, parallel realities. Out of the countless, shimmering possibilities of the quantum multiverse, your focused awareness, your deeply held intentions, and your active observations are quietly selecting which specific branch of the eternal block universe you will physically experience next. You are literally collapsing the wave function of the entire cosmos with every passing second, choosing a specific path through the dark forest of infinite probability. You are not just moving through time, you are actively, beautifully creating the specific history of the universe you inhabit. This incredibly empowering perspective suggests that the separation we feel from the rest of the cosmos is the ultimate illusion. We often look at the staggering vastness of IC 1101, with its 100 trillion stars sitting over a billion light years away, and feel an overwhelming sense of isolation. We feel tiny, disconnected, and hopelessly separated by gulfs of space and time so large that they defy all meaning. But if distance in space and separation in time are merely structural illusions generated by the specific way our consciousness interacts with the underlying quantum field, then we are not separated from that distant giant at all. The very same conscious awareness that collapses the probability wave of a single photon in a laboratory is the exact same underlying mechanism that grants reality to the ancient light of those distant, dying stars. We are deeply, fundamentally entangled with everything that exists in the dark. In quantum physics, when two particles interact, they become perfectly entangled, meaning that their physical states remain instantaneously connected, regardless of the physical distance separating them. If you gently measure the spin of one particle on Earth, you instantly determine the spin of its entangled partner, even if that partner is currently floating in the silent void of the Andromeda Galaxy. This instantaneous non-local connection completely ignores the strict speed limit of light, suggesting a deep, hidden layer of reality where space and distance possess absolutely no meaning. Some theoretical physicists quietly propose that the entire universe, having been born from a single, infinitely dense, incredibly tiny point during the Big Bang, might be fundamentally and universally entangled at its very core. Every single atom in your physical body, every drop of blood in your veins, and every thought crossing your mind might be deeply, quietly connected to the supermassive black hole at the center of IC 1101, the ancient dust clouds of the Orion Nebula, and the fading embers of the oldest known stars. We are not just made of star stuff, as the brilliant Carl Sagan once so beautifully noted. We are fundamentally woven into the exact same unbroken, shimmering fabric of awareness that gives those stars their physical reality. Your consciousness is not an isolated, flickering spark trapped inside a temporary biological shell. It is a localized, focused expression of the infinite, ancient awareness that permeates the entire cosmos. When you look deeply into the night sky, you are not a small, insignificant creature looking out into an overwhelmingly large, uncaring void. You are the universe itself, looking back at its own magnificent reflection, trying to gently understand the profound mystery of its own beautiful existence. This silent, cosmic journey of understanding is the truest purpose we can ever hope to find in the dark. As we allow these massive, paradigm-shifting concepts to gently settle into our minds, we must realize that knowing these rigorous scientific truths changes absolutely everything about how we walk through our daily lives. The struggles, the anxieties, and the fleeting pains of our temporary human experience begin to look completely different when viewed against the backdrop of eternal, interconnected consciousness. We begin to understand that peace is not something we must frantically search for in the external world. It is the fundamental, underlying state of the reality we inhabit. Let us take this beautiful, quiet realization with us as we prepare to explore how this profound quantum interconnectedness directly impacts the fragile, beautiful phenomenon we call human life, and how understanding our true nature can bring a lasting, unshakable peace to our minds in the silence of the night. Have you ever stood beneath a canopy of stars and felt a deep, comforting sense of permanence? The constellations look exactly the same today as they did when ancient philosophers first mapped them in the dark. We look up and see a crowded, bustling universe overflowing with galaxies, nebulas, and the gentle glow of billions of ancient fires. It feels as though this grand cosmic architecture is eternal. But this feeling of permanence is yet another beautiful, gentle illusion cast by our limited perception of time. The universe is not just moving, it is actively, relentlessly expanding, and it is doing so in a way that completely defies our basic understanding of gravity. We are currently living in a very specific, incredibly privileged era of cosmic history. If you could fast forward the clock of the universe by hundreds of billions of years, the night sky would not look like a crowded tapestry of light. It would be overwhelmingly, terrifyingly empty. The grand structures of the cosmos, including the monstrous giant IC 1101, are participating in a silent, slow-motion dispersal driven by a mysterious force that is quietly tearing the very fabric of space apart. Before we journey into the distant fading future of the cosmos, I want to gently welcome you once again. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet companion navigating the endless mysteries of the dark. I have noticed that roughly 71% of the curious minds who seek peace in these contemplations have not yet subscribed to our channel. If these journeys bring you a sense of calm and cosmic belonging, I gently invite you to subscribe. It helps us immensely and ensures we can continue exploring the silent wonders of the universe together. Now, let us return to the dark and uncover the invisible force that is reshaping eternity. For most of the 20th century, the brightest minds in astronomy held a very logical belief about the ultimate fate of the universe. They knew that the universe was expanding outward from the fiery birth of the Big Bang. But they naturally assumed that this expansion must be slowing down. Everything in the cosmos possesses mass, and everything with mass exerts a gravitational pull on everything else. Trillions of galaxies, supermassive black holes, and vast oceans of dark matter are all constantly, silently pulling on one another across the void. Physicists firmly believe that this immense gravitational attraction must act like a giant cosmic brake, gradually slowing the expansion of space. But the universe is a master of shattering human expectations. In the year 1998, two independent teams of astronomers were making incredibly precise measurements of the distant cosmos. They were observing a specific type of exploding star, known as a Type 1a supernova, using their flashes of light to accurately calculate extreme distances. What they found hidden in that ancient light was so profoundly unexpected that they initially thought they had made a terrible mistake. The data clearly showed that the distant galaxies were not slowing down. They were actually speeding up. The fundamental rate of cosmic expansion was accelerating over time, pushing galaxies apart faster and faster. Something massive, invisible, and incredibly powerful was actively counteracting gravity, pushing the fabric of space itself apart at an ever-increasing rate. Scientists named this mysterious anti-gravitational force dark energy. The name itself is a gentle admission of our own profound ignorance, telling us absolutely nothing about what this force actually is, merely acknowledging its terrifying presence in the dark. Although we cannot see it or directly measure its physical substance, we know from the accelerating expansion that dark energy makes up roughly 68% of all the energy and mass in the known universe. It is the absolute dominant force in the cosmos, acting as a relentless pressure that pushes empty space apart. As the universe continues to expand, ordinary matter and gravity become more spread out, but the density of dark energy remains constant. It is an eternal breath pushing the walls of reality further into the infinite dark. What does this relentless acceleration mean for the ultimate fate of the magnificent giant? IC 1101. The implications are both staggering and deeply, melancholically beautiful. As space expands faster, distant objects are forced to recede from one another at ever-increasing speeds. There is a strict limit to how fast light can travel, but absolutely no physical limit to how fast space itself can expand. Eventually, the very fabric of the void will be stretching apart so rapidly that distant galaxies will be carried away faster than their light can ever hope to travel back toward our telescopes. When that inevitable moment arrives, those galaxies will simply vanish behind an invisible boundary, known as the cosmic horizon. They will slip forever beyond our physical reach, completely erased from the observable universe. For IC 1101, resting quietly at the heart of the Abel 2029 galaxy cluster, this means its long days of growth through galactic cannibalism are numbered. Gravity is currently strong enough to hold the immediate cluster together, binding those local galaxies in a tight embrace against the pull of dark energy. But outside that specific bubble, the universe is actively emptying out. In about 100 billion years, the cosmic expansion will have accelerated to the terrifying point where every single galaxy outside of that local supercluster will begin to disappear over the horizon. From the quiet perspective of anyone living inside IC 1101, the night sky will slowly start to empty. One by one, the distant clusters will fade from view. The observable universe, which currently contains 2 trillion magnificent galaxies, will shrink until almost nothing remains. Within the protective gravitational well of the Abel cluster, things will remain relatively stable for a while longer. The galaxies there are close enough that they will continue to interact and merge, even as the outer universe completely empties into the dark. IC 1101 might still quietly consume a few more wandering victims. But eventually, over hundreds of billions of years, even the galaxies within that local cluster will be forced to merge together. The exact same relentless gravitational processes that originally built IC 1101 will continue drawing all the remaining local galaxies toward the absolute center, absorbing them into an even larger structure. In the long run, all the matter in the entire cluster will collapse into a single, enormous, lonely galaxy, floating completely isolated in the infinite dark. By the time that final massive merger is complete, the universe beyond that single galaxy will be perfectly empty. No light from any distant objects will ever reach that cluster again. If any conscious observers still existed on a quiet planet within that supergalaxy, their night sky would show only the local fading stars against a backdrop of absolute blackness. They would have absolutely no way of knowing that the universe was once filled with trillions of other galaxies. They would look out into the void and firmly, logically conclude that their single, isolated island of stars was the entirety of existence. The rich, vibrant cosmos that we are so privileged to observe today would be lost to them forever. This is the profound, inescapable isolation that patiently awaits IC 1101 and every other bound structure in the cosmos. This vision of the distant future might initially seem bleak, a cold and lonely end to a magnificent cosmic story. But if we look closer, through the gentle lens of contemplation, there is something strangely, profoundly beautiful about it. The terrifying emptiness of the future completely recontextualizes the incredible rarity and preciousness of the present moment. I see 1101, our own Milky Way, and the conscious minds that look up to wonder at them all exist right now in this incredibly brief, beautiful, and fleeting moment of cosmic history when the stars still shine brightly and the galaxies still glow close enough to be seen. We are currently living in the grand era of starlight, a temporary passing phase sitting quietly between the chaotic fire of the early universe and the cold, isolated emptiness of the far future. We are unimaginably lucky to exist during this specific flowering. We are lucky enough to have evolved deep intelligence, to have built polished telescopes, and to have pointed them upward into the dark. We are lucky enough to have discovered IC 1101, to measure its incomprehensible size, and to understand the majestic forces that brought it into being. In all the vast history of the universe, this very moment, right now, is incredibly special. It is the moment when the universe is awake, crowded, and capable of looking at itself in pure wonder. When we feel the weight of dark energy, we should not feel fear. We should feel a profound, overwhelming gratitude for the light that currently fills our eyes. We are the universe experiencing its own beautiful springtime. Let this gentle realization bring a deep, abiding peace to your mind. As we continue to drift through the dark, let us explore exactly how the stars themselves will eventually meet their silent end. Have you ever closed your eyes and tried to imagine what the night sky would look like if you were born not on a rocky planet orbiting a solitary star, on the quiet edge of a spiral arm, but deep inside the heart of a true cosmic monster? When we step outside our homes on a clear, cold night, we are greeted by a familiar, comforting scattering of distant pinpricks of light. The darkness of the void is the canvas, and the stars are merely the delicate, sparse paint. But if you were to somehow transport your consciousness across 1 billion light years of empty space and open your eyes on a hypothetical world orbiting an ancient star near the dense core of IC 1101, your entire perception of the universe would be violently, beautifully shattered. The sky above you would not be black. It would be an absolute, overwhelming blaze of continuous, brilliant twilight. In a giant elliptical galaxy, the stars are not neatly arranged in flat, sweeping disks. They swarm in a massive, three-dimensional cloud of unimaginable density. Instead of a few thousand stars visible to the naked eye, you would see millions, perhaps even billions, crowding the heavens so closely together that the concept of a true dark night would simply not exist in your vocabulary. You would be bathed in the permanent, gentle glow of ancient fires, surrounded by a luminous fog of neighboring suns. Before we delve deeper into the fate of these countless alien suns, I want to take a gentle, quiet moment to reconnect with you. I am Theodore, the researcher, your companion on this long, peaceful journey through the cosmic night. I have quietly noticed that roughly 71% of the curious, searching minds who find comfort in these contemplations have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a deep sense of peace, intellectual safety, and a feeling of profound belonging in these quiet explorations, I warmly invite you to subscribe. It helps us immensely and ensures that we can continue unraveling the silent, beautiful secrets of the universe together, side by side, as fellow travelers. Now, let us return to the alien skies of that magnificent giant and discover how its grand story will ultimately conclude. Living on a world bathed in the perpetual twilight of an elliptical core, navigation by the stars would be utterly impossible, as there would be far too many points of light to distinguish familiar constellations. There would be no sweeping band of a Milky Way to anchor your perspective, only an endless spherical shell of stellar radiance. If intelligent beings do exist somewhere within the 100 trillion stars of IC 1101, they might look up at their blinding sky and feel a profound sense of isolation, completely unable to see past the glare of their immediate stellar neighbors to discover the wider universe beyond. They might not even know that other galaxies exist, perfectly hidden behind curtains of brilliant light. Yet, as magnificent as this crowded sky might seem, it is a sky that is slowly, inevitably, and irrevocably dying. The brilliant light that fills the core of this giant is the light of aging stars, a beautiful collective swan song echoing through the dark. To understand the silent, majestic tragedy of IC 1101, we must deeply understand how stars age and eventually die. The universe is governed by the relentless laws of thermodynamics, and no fire can burn forever in the dark. A star is fundamentally a delicate balancing act, a raging war between the crushing pull of gravity and the explosive push of nuclear fusion deep within its core. As long as a star has a fresh supply of hydrogen gas to crush into helium, the outward pressure holds the gravity at bay, and the star shines with a stable, comforting light. But the lifespan of a star is entirely dictated by its mass. The most massive stars in the universe, the brilliant blue giants, live incredibly fast, violent lives. Because they are so massive, their internal gravity is incredibly strong, forcing them to burn through their precious nuclear fuel at a terrifying rate. These massive blue stars exhaust their fuel in a mere few million years, dying in spectacular, violent supernova explosions. Any brilliant blue giants that IC 1101 might have once possessed burned out and exploded billions of years ago in the ancient past. The galaxy we see today is entirely dominated by much older, smaller, and vastly more patient stars. The stars, roughly similar in mass to our own sun, possess lifespans of about 10 billion years. Our sun is resting peacefully halfway through its magnificent life, with roughly 5 billion years left before its core runs out of hydrogen. When that inevitable moment arrives, our star will not explode. Instead, it will gently swell into a massive red giant, puffing its outer layers far out into the solar system, shedding them to create a beautiful, glowing cloud. What will remain at the very center is a white dwarf, a tiny, incredibly dense, glowing ember roughly the size of the Earth, slowly cooling in the dark for trillions of years. Inside IC 1101, countless billions of sun-like stars have already completed this grand cycle, leaving behind billions of silent white dwarf remnants floating endlessly in the void. But the true, ultimate survivors of the cosmos, the silent guardians of the fading light, are the smallest stars of all. These are the red dwarfs. A red dwarf is a tiny, dim star possessing only a small fraction of the mass of our sun. Because their internal gravity is weak, they burn through their hydrogen fuel at an incredibly slow pace. While a sun-like star might burn out in 10 billion years, a tiny red dwarf can continuously, patiently shine for trillions of years. A red dwarf born at the very dawn of the universe is practically an infant today. In a giant like IC 1101, containing a staggering 100 trillion stars, there are uncountable numbers of these resilient red dwarfs. As the renowned astrophysicist Carl Sagan famously taught us to view the cosmos with awe, we must humbly realize that our intuition completely fails us when trying to grasp eternity. If we project our minds forward roughly 100 trillion years, the universe will completely exhaust its ability to create new life. The giant clouds of raw gas scattered across the cosmos will have been entirely used up or dispersed. The era of star formation will come to a permanent, silent end. No new stars will ever be born to replace the ones that die. In this distant, freezing epoch, IC 1101 will look nothing like the brilliant, glowing sphere we observe today. One by one, over billions of lifetimes, the 100 trillion stars will slowly wink out. The galaxy will grow dimmer and dimmer, fading like a dying ember in a cold, empty fireplace. The last sources of light in the entire universe will be those countless, tiny red dwarfs. But eventually, even these resilient survivors will run out of hydrogen fuel. They will not explode, and they will not puff up into red giants. They will simply, quietly shrink and compress into specialized white dwarfs, fading into the eternal darkness without a sound. When the very last red dwarf inside IC 1101 finally exhausts its fuel and goes dark, the magnificent era of starlight will officially, irrevocably conclude. The galaxy will be plunged into an absolute, freezing darkness that will never again be broken by the warm glow of nuclear fusion. Where there was once a blazing inferno of 100 trillion suns, there will eventually be nothing but the cold, silent corpses of dead stars. The galaxy will be entirely populated by white dwarfs slowly cooling to near absolute zero, rapidly spinning neutron stars, and billions of silent black holes drifting blindly through the expanding void. The universe, at this stage, will be a terrifyingly dark place, but it will not be entirely empty. All of those stellar remnants will still possess physical mass, inextricably bound together by the relentless force of gravity. They will continue to orbit the supermassive black hole at the center, completing silent, invisible laps in the absolute dark. IC 1101 will essentially become a magnificent ghost, a sprawling, massive graveyard of stellar corpses haunting the deep vacuum. It is a profoundly humbling realization to know that the brilliant, beautiful universe we inhabit is destined to spend the vast majority of its eternal existence in this silent, frozen state. The time we have right now is nothing more than a brief, spectacular flash. We are the universe experiencing its own fleeting sunrise before the long night. Let us gently prepare to venture even further, to a time so distant that even black holes begin to die. Have you ever walked outside on a bitterly cold winter night, wrapped tightly in a thick coat, and felt the sharp, undeniable absence of heat pulling at your skin? We spend our entire lives constantly seeking warmth. Heat is the ultimate signature of life, motion, and active cosmic energy. But what happens when the universe itself finally runs completely out of firewood? We previously journeyed to the distant, melancholic era when the very last red dwarf stars inside the massive giant IC 1101 will quietly exhaust their nuclear fuel, plunging the galaxy into an absolute, freezing darkness. But the story of this cosmic monster does not end when the lights simply go out. There is a deeply profound, almost unimaginable epilogue to the universe, a silent era of slow decay that stretches out over timescales so incredibly vast that all of the cosmic history we have discussed thus far becomes nothing more than a microscopic, fleeting blink of an eye. This is the era of the degenerates, a time when the magnificent galaxy we once marveled at is reduced to a massive, haunting graveyard of cooling stellar corpses. Before we journey into the absolute deepest, coldest stretches of eternity, I want to take a gentle, quiet moment to reconnect with you. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion as we navigate the endless, beautiful mysteries of the night sky. I have quietly noticed that roughly 71% of the curious searching minds who find peace in these contemplations have not yet subscribed to our channel. If these journeys bring you a sense of calm and cosmic belonging, I gently invite you to subscribe. It helps us immensely and ensures we can continue exploring the silent wonders of the universe together. Now, let us return to the dark and discover how even the most permanent structures eventually fade away. When the burning era of stars finally concludes, IC 1101 will be completely populated by silent, incredibly dense objects known as white dwarfs, neutron stars, and waiting black holes. A white dwarf, the glowing ember left behind by a star, similar to our sun, initially shines with a fierce, residual heat. But because it no longer generates any new energy through active nuclear fusion, it has absolutely no way to replenish the warmth it constantly radiates away into the freezing vacuum of space. Over an almost inconceivable amount of time, these white dwarfs will slowly, inevitably, cool down. This gentle cooling process takes so incredibly long that scientists estimate it requires roughly 1,000,000 billion years for a single white dwarf to reach a temperature near absolute zero. That specific number is roughly 100,000 times longer than the current entire age of our universe. When they finally do lose all of their residual heat, they will become theoretical objects known as black dwarfs. They will be perfectly dark, incredibly dense spheres of degenerate carbon and oxygen, emitting absolutely no visible light or heat whatsoever, drifting silently through the frozen ruins of the once mighty elliptical galaxy. But the relentless, unyielding arrow of thermodynamic entropy is not satisfied with merely extinguishing the light and the heat. In the absolute deepest reaches of the future, the very physical matter that makes up these dark stellar corpses might fundamentally begin to dissolve. Modern particle physics quietly suggests a theoretical concept known as proton decay. Protons are the heavy, absolutely fundamental building blocks of all atomic nuclei. They are the stable, enduring foundation of every single atom of carbon in your physical body, every drop of water in our oceans, and every ounce of degenerate matter inside a cooling black dwarf. For decades, scientists believed protons were perfectly immortal, but complex theoretical models now suggest that over unfathomably long time spans, perhaps on the order of 10 to the power of 34 years, even these incredibly stable particles might naturally, spontaneously decay into lighter subatomic particles and pure, fleeting radiation. If this staggering theory holds true, then over unfathomable eons, the black dwarfs, the quiet neutron stars, the wandering planets, and all the remaining dust in IC 1101 will literally evaporate into a thin, featureless mist of fading photons and electrons. The physical substance of the galaxy will simply dissolve into the endless night. If protons truly do decay, the only massive structures left standing in the entire desolate universe will be the black holes. And sitting directly at the gravitational center of the decaying ghost of IC 1101 will be the ultimate survivor, the supermassive black hole containing 50 billion solar masses. For countless eons, this dark monster has reigned supreme, an inescapable well of gravity that nothing could defy. But even this terrifying Leviathan is not truly immortal. A brilliant, visionary physicist named Stephen Hawking discovered a beautiful, subtle flaw in the absolute darkness of these monsters. He mathematically proved that black holes are not completely, perfectly black because of the incredibly strange, indeterminate rules of quantum mechanics operating right at the very edge of the event horizon. Black holes must constantly, slowly leak a tiny, microscopic stream of subatomic particles and thermal radiation. This breathtaking phenomenon is known as Hawking radiation. As the black hole slowly radiates this energy away into the freezing void, it must gradually, inevitably lose physical mass and shrink in size. The specific rate at which a black hole evaporates through Hawking radiation is excruciatingly, beautifully slow, especially for the true giants of the cosmos. A relatively small, stellar mass black hole, roughly the size of our sun, would take approximately 10 to the power of 67 years to completely evaporate. That is the number one followed by 67 zeros, a time span so incredibly vast that it renders all human concepts of history completely and utterly meaningless. But the supermassive Titan resting at the center of IC 1101 is tens of billions of times more massive than our sun, and its evaporation time is correspondingly, terrifyingly longer. Scientists carefully calculate that it would take roughly 10 to the power of 100 years for a black hole of this staggering magnitude to finally, completely evaporate. That specific number is known in mathematics as a googol. It is a span of time so overwhelmingly profound that everything we have discussed, from the fiery Big Bang to the death of the very last star, is not even a microscopic rounding error by comparison. Yet, as incomprehensible as that timeline is, it is mathematically finite. Eventually, even the supermassive black hole at the heart of IC 1101 will have silently radiated away its very last ounce of mass and energy. It will disappear in a final burst of fading radiation, leaving absolutely nothing behind. When that ultimate, inevitable moment finally arrives, there will be absolutely no trace left of the largest galaxy humanity ever discovered. No ancient stars, no swirling gas, no silent black dwarfs, and no central gravitational anchor. There will be nothing but a faint, ever-cooling, ever-expanding soup of elementary particles drifting blindly through an infinite, freezing void. The giant will have followed the exact same ultimate path as every other beautiful structure in the cosmos, dissolving completely into the relentless, endless night. This incredibly vast, terrifyingly bleak vision of the extreme future might initially fill your heart with a deep sense of existential dread. But I want to offer you a different, far more peaceful perspective. I find something incredibly, profoundly beautiful about the ultimate impermanence of the cosmos. The fact that it will eventually fade away does not diminish its majesty. Rather, it makes its existence right now all the more precious and sacred. We are currently living in a golden, fleeting era of cosmic history, a brief, spectacular window where matter has beautifully organized itself into grand, sweeping structures, shining stars, and deeply conscious minds capable of looking up and wondering about it all. The era of galaxies is a temporary, magnificent flowering between the chaotic birth and the freezing, silent death of the universe. We are unimaginably fortunate to be here, right now, witnessing the blossoms before they inevitably fall. When you look up at the dark sky, Do not mourn the distant end of the stars. Celebrate the miraculous, fragile fact that they are currently shining exactly when you're here to see them. Have you ever looked at your own reflection in a dark, quiet window at night, with the stars shining faintly through the glass behind your face, and realized that you're looking at two entirely different expressions of the exact same cosmic miracle? We have traveled an unimaginably long distance together during these quiet contemplations. We have sailed across 1 billion light years of empty, freezing space to stand in the terrifying shadow of IC 1101, the undisputed, silent giant of the known universe. We have watched billions of ancient stars slowly burn out and die. And we have fast-forwarded the eternal clock of the cosmos to witness the absolute, final evaporation of supermassive black holes in the freezing dark. We have also journeyed inward, diving deep into the bizarre, shimmering quantum realm to discover that the solid reality we take for granted is actually a fluid wave of probability, waiting patiently for the gentle touch of our conscious observation to become real. And we have dismantled the very concept of passing time, revealing a silent, eternal block of existence where every moment that has ever happened or ever will happen simply is. But how do we possibly reconcile these staggering, mind-bending scientific truths with the simple, quiet experience of being a fragile human being living on a tiny, rocky world? How do we find lasting peace in a universe that seems so infinitely large and so relentlessly destined for the dark? Before we gently weave all of these profound threads together into a final, beautiful tapestry of understanding, I want to take one last moment to thank you for walking this path with me. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet companion and guide through the magnificent dark. I have gently noticed that roughly 71% of the beautiful, searching minds who have traveled this far have not yet subscribed to our channel. If this journey has brought you a deep sense of peace, intellectual safety, and a feeling of true cosmic belonging, I warmly invite you to subscribe. It helps us immensely and ensures that we can always continue exploring the silent, eternal wonders of the universe together, side by side. Now, let us return to the stars and discover the ultimate, beautiful meaning of our existence. The key to finding profound peace amidst the terrifying vastness of the cosmos lies in deeply understanding that the universe is not something that is merely happening around you. The universe is something that is happening specifically, fundamentally, and beautifully through you. When we look at a monster like IC 1101, with its 100 trillion ancient stars spreading across millions of light years, the immediate human reaction is often a feeling of crushing insignificance. We feel like microscopic, meaningless specks of dust floating blindly in a cold, indifferent machine. But this feeling of isolation is the greatest, most pervasive illusion of all. The rigorous laws of chemistry and astrophysics rigorously prove that there is absolutely no physical separation between the substance of your body and the substance of those distant, dying stars. You are not a stranger wandering through a foreign cosmos. You are a native child of the dark, born directly from the violent, ancient fires of the sky. Consider the very atoms that currently construct your physical form, the heavy carbon that provides the fundamental architecture of your muscles, the invisible oxygen that fills your lungs with every single breath you take, the sturdy calcium that hardens your bones, and the red iron that courses through your veins, carrying life-giving energy to your brain. Not a single one of these complex elements was created during the initial, fiery birth of the Big Bang. The early universe was a simple, featureless place, composed entirely of basic hydrogen and a small amount of helium. For hundreds of millions of years, there was absolutely no carbon, no oxygen, no iron, and therefore absolutely no possibility for life. Those heavier, complex elements had to be painstakingly forged, atom by atom, in the unimaginably hot, crushing nuclear furnaces operating at the very cores of the first generations of ancient stars. For billions of years, those ancient stars burned brightly in the dark, patiently transmuting simple hydrogen into heavier and heavier elements. And when those massive stars finally exhausted their nuclear fuel, they did not just quietly fade away. They died in spectacular, violent supernova explosions, tearing themselves apart and scattering their precious, newly forged elemental riches across the vast, empty gulfs of interstellar space. Those glowing clouds of stardust drifted endlessly through the quiet void, eventually mixing with other clouds, slowly collapsing under the gentle pull of gravity to form new stars, new solar systems, and new rocky planets like our own Earth. The iron in your blood is quite literally the exact same iron that was forged in the dying heart of a massive, ancient star that completely annihilated itself billions of years before our sun was even born. The calcium in your teeth was formed in a stellar explosion on the other side of the Milky Way. As the brilliant, poetic astrophysicist Carl Sagan once so beautifully and accurately stated, we are literally made of star stuff. This is not a metaphor. It is the absolute, rigorous chemical truth of your existence. When you finally realize this undeniable physical connection, the overwhelming vastness of IC 1101 ceases to be a source of existential dread. Instead, it becomes a magnificent, glowing mirror. When you look up into the night sky, you are not a tiny, separate creature looking out into a cold, foreign void. You are star stuff, looking at other star stuff. You are the universe itself, having spent billions of years forging elements, assembling molecules, and carefully evolving complex biological brains, just so it could finally open its eyes, look back out into the dark, and marvel at its own staggering beauty. The cosmos is not a silent, dead machine. It is a continuously waking mind, and you are the specific, localized point where that ancient mind has finally achieved self-awareness. The supermassive black holes, the fading red dwarfs, and the silent, expanding voids are all just different parts of your own vast cosmic body. And when we gently weave the mind-bending truths of quantum mechanics back into this grand picture, the profound beauty of our situation becomes almost overwhelming. We learned that the fundamental building blocks of reality, the very subatomic particles that make up the stars in our own bodies, do not exist in a fixed, definitive state until they are consciously observed. The universe exists as an infinite, shimmering wave of probability, a vast ocean of pure potential waiting patiently in the dark. It is your consciousness, your specific, focused awareness that gently collapses that wave, pulling the universe out of the shadows of probability and into the bright, solid light of actual reality. You are not just made of the universe. You are actively, continuously creating it with every single observation, every thought, and every moment of wonder you experience. The distant light of IC 1101, after traveling for over 1 billion years, requires your specific, conscious mind to complete its epic journey and become a visual reality. Without you, the universe is just a silent equation waiting to be solved. Furthermore, the revelation of the static block universe, where time does not physically flow and every moment exists eternally in a magnificent, 4-dimensional crystal, offers us the ultimate, lasting peace. We previously journeyed to the absolute end of the cosmos, to the freezing, dark era where protons decay and supermassive black holes evaporate into nothingness. If time were a flowing river, that dark end would be a terrifying, final destination. But because time is a static landscape, that dark era is merely the physical edge of the grand cosmic sculpture. The fiery Big Bang is one edge, and the final freezing evaporation is the other edge. But everything in between, the glorious burning era of stars, the beautiful, delicate flourishing of life on Earth, and the specific, quiet moments of love, joy, and profound wonder you have experienced in your own life, all exist permanently and eternally within that magnificent block. IC 1101 is a staggering testament to exactly what is physically possible in such a finely tuned, miraculous universe. It is undeniable proof that matter and energy, simply following beautiful, consistent physical rules over billions of years, can naturally organize themselves into structures of almost incomprehensible complexity, size, and grandeur. If the universe is capable of producing a giant with 100 trillion stars, what other unimaginable wonders currently exist out there in the dark, patiently waiting for us to discover them? Every single time we peer deeper into the void, every time we unravel another layer of the quantum mystery, and every time we push the boundaries of human knowledge, we expand our collective sense of what is possible. We began this long, quiet journey feeling small and overwhelmed by the terrifying scale of the cosmos. We looked at distances that shattered our minds and numbers that defied all human logic. But we end this journey standing incredibly tall. We are the ones doing the looking. We are the ones doing the measuring. We are the ones who can hold a galaxy of 100 trillion stars inside the quiet space of our own minds. In the face of such profound enormity, we have a clear, beautiful choice. We can choose to feel small and insignificant, or we can choose to feel an overwhelming, empowering sense of wonder. I gently, wholeheartedly invite you to choose wonder. As we prepare to close this grand chapter of our exploration, I want to leave you with one final, peaceful image to carry with you into the dark. Imagine yourself standing on the edge of the ocean at midnight, looking up at the vast, scattered diamonds of the Milky Way. Feel the cool air on your skin, the solid earth beneath your feet, and listen to the rhythmic, ancient breathing of the waves. Now, remember everything we have discovered together. The stars you see are not distant, separate objects. They are the ancient, burning furnaces that forge the very atoms of your blood. The darkness between them is not empty. It is a shimmering quantum sea of infinite potential waiting for your conscious gaze. The passing of time you feel is just your beautiful, eternal mind surfing across the frozen, perfect crystal of space-time, and sitting far beyond the limits of your vision. A billion light years away in the deep dark, IC 1101 quietly holds its 100 trillion stars, bound together in the same elegant gravitational dance that keeps your feet firmly planted on the ground. You are incredibly, undeniably vast. You are an ancient, eternal, conscious participant in the greatest, most beautiful mystery ever told. You are the universe, and the universe is you. There is absolutely nothing to fear in the dark, for you are made of the exact same ancient light that chases the shadows away. Carry this profound, quiet peace with you. Let it gently soothe your anxieties, calm your restless mind, and fill your heart with a deep, abiding wonder for the sheer, miraculous improbability of your own existence. Thank you for walking this long, beautiful path with me. Thank you for opening your mind to the staggering, silent truths of the cosmos. Until we meet again to unravel the next profound mystery, keep looking up at the stars, keep nurturing the quiet wonder in your soul, and always remember the magnificent, eternal truth of exactly who and what you truly are in the dark.